We've all heard that the doctor does not cure, that the doctor removes nerve interference to allow the body to function, heal, and recreate from above down, inside out. So, in The Bigness of the Fellow Within, chapter 141, BJ says, the DC does not cure. He cannot. That is done by the flowing of forces within you. It is the electricity which produces light, not the man who turns on the switch. It is the steam which gives heat, not the man who turns on the valve. It is the water which grows fruit, not the man who opens the faucet. It is the force within you which gives you life, makes you live, which interfered with makes you sick, which restored makes you healthy again. All any chiropractor does or can do is adjust the cause. All else that will follow comes from within you, the same as it did when you were well. It's interesting, and sometimes this philosophy is so simple, it almost offends the mind. One of the things that happens is you have an innate, inborn intelligence. Every single person that comes to see you has an innate, inborn intelligence. But the problem is that if there's a drop in that innate intelligence because of an interference, they have an increase in susceptibility to disease and a decrease in resistance. So as an example, if you take an apple, right? You guys have heard of the story, one bad apple spoils the bunch. So what does that mean? That means that if there is a dead, rotten, diseased apple, and it's put into a barrel of apples, that disease will spread. In other words, the rottenness, if that's a word, will spread. But the question is, why? Why does it spread? And the reason it does is because the other apples are also dying. They're no longer connected to the tree. And because of that, they have a higher susceptibility and a decreased resistance to outside forces. Do you know what happens? I heard this a long time ago, so I tried it to see what happens. If you take a dead and diseased apple, or an apple that's dying, and you tie it to an apple that's still on the tree, guess what happens? Nothing. Because that apple that's on the tree is still connected to its source. It's still connected to that source of life. And so its resistance has not dropped. And because its resistance has not dropped, it has not become susceptible to outside stressors, and therefore won't break down. And your patient's body is exactly identical. Right? When somebody comes in and they have an obvious sign that their body is broken down, their body's broken down because their internal resistance has been overcome. And if you continually see that person's body, that internal resistance has been overcome, it's easy to see when you're caring for them that your job is to help increase their resistance. Because if you think that you're a doctor trying to get rid of something all the time, right? That's when you're trying to play God. You're trying to play MD. You're trying to get rid of something. The whole key is to see somebody who is in a traumatic, not a traumatic state, in a breaking down state, as somebody who has been overcome, as somebody who has the ability to have a better resistance than they did to allow them to get into the state that they're in. So when somebody comes in with a headache, you're not trying to get rid of the headache. You're trying to increase the innate capacity of that body to overcome. Somebody comes in with back pain, you're trying to increase the innate capacity of that body to overcome. And so when I adjust somebody and remove interference, and then I suggest to them, that they should do this exercise or that nutrition or get some sleep or things like that. Those are things that will allow their body to work better, to have a higher resistance so that it cannot be overcome by these outside stressors. If you see your patient as the person who's at the apple, who's still stuck to the tree, but your patients don't even see themselves as the apple that's still stuck to the tree. They see themselves like the apple in the basket. Teach them that they're the apple still tapped into their source, that the adjustment reattaches them to that tree to allow their body to function, heal, and recreate from above down, inside out, from womb to tomb, the way they were designed in the first place. Because if their innate is on the job, their susceptibility drops because their resistance is there. All right, guys, have an awesome day. I love what we do.